as promised, I said that we'd have some more footage, right, on flips. And without further ado, I've got a flip master right here in our presence. Can you believe that?
Oh boy, that's a lot of pressure.
And I just pepper her all the time with questions about what she's doing with some of her latest projects. And so, yeah, we wanted to tackle a few different topics when we're talking about flips. So if you're okay with that,
yeah, let's do it.
We want all of your secrets, though.
Okay.
We don't want you to hold back. Don't have any secrets for this crowd.
I'll give all my secrets.
Even though somebody might copy you, that's okay.
Yeah.
You're putting it out in the world. Okay, so the first question that I think a lot of people have are, what makes sense to you as far as dollars and cents goes? You don't take on every project, right? So how do you have any formulas, any Excel documents that you're playing around with to say, okay, this is a wise investment, I should move forward with this flip? Or how do you go about determining what projects you take and what projects you don't, if that makes any sense?
Sure, that makes sense. So I don't have an exact formula. I do use a estimated net proceeds sheet or calculation pretty often, but mostly it comes down to a lot of different factors. So if it's a pretty small project or a quick project, so maybe something that'll flip in 30 days, I would be more willing to take a smaller profit as opposed to something that might take 75 days to flip or at a higher price point. That's a riskier investment, so I would have to see more margin in that. So to get really specific, I'm probably looking on a low end for risk of a $30,000 profit.
Okay.
And for a higher end of the risk, I would be looking at $45,000 plus in profit.
Okay.
And that's just because of the time factor and how many times am I going to go to the house. And you know what else plays a big role in that too is flipping isn't my job. It's something I do on the side.
Right.
So if the property's 30 minutes from my house, I have to calculate what kind of time that's going to take me.
Yeah.
If it were 5 minutes from my house, I might be willing to take a little bit lower profit because it's just an easier project.
Right. So, in a perfect world, how often are you going over to your flip?
In a perfect world or a reality?
Yeah, well, in a perfect world, how often would you do you want to be over there every day? You want to be over there once a week, twice a week, once every 2 weeks? What do you feel like is the appropriate amount of oversight? Because you are the money, you're the brains, you're also the boss lady. You are kind of everything, but we know that's not how it always works. So how often do you want to be over at your projects?
So if I am kind of hands off or I have a general contractor who's taking care of everything, but I'm just making design decisions, then I'm over there maybe once a week.
Right.
If I'm over there and I'm the one picking up materials and I am needing to coordinate contractors, then it could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times
multiple times a day.
Right. Ideally it'd be great if you only had to go once a week, but that's not super typical, and it depends on what stage you are in the flipping process.
Okay.
Especially toward the end, I'm there pretty much every day making sure everything's ready to go for listing.
Right. If you didn't catch it, I want to point out that this beautiful woman said she's actually picking up and delivering some of the materials. I've been there for that, okay? So
yeah, not in this outfit, but
yeah, not just a pretty face, okay? Speaking of pretty, okay, design choices.
Yes.
I know in Stillicum, you knocked it out of the park. You use a lot of blacks, a lot of whites, grays. Where are you getting your design choices from? Are they all in your head? Are you looking at magazines? Are you watching HGTV? How do you go about saying, okay, we're going to use this tile, we're going to use this countertop, we're going to use these colors? How does that project happen?
Well, I would say that most of my inspiration comes from things that I've seen in other homes. You know how often we're inside other people's houses.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to see different choices that people make and then kind of take that and make your own choices with it. So basically, I design the houses to be what I would want to live in.
Yeah.
I've been in so many flipped houses.
I can testify to that.
True. But I've been in so many flipped houses where you walk in and everything's exactly the same. It's like the same tile and the same backsplash and the same flooring and the same carpet and the same everything. And so just by switching it up a little bit and putting in some custom pieces or some unique tile that maybe won't even cost that much more than the typical tile that everybody uses, it goes a long way and makes such a difference. So I'm really trying to make the house stand out and catch like the right buyer's attention, you know, so it feels like home and it feels exciting for those buyers when they're looking at the house.
Yeah.
As far as where else I would get my inspiration from is probably just like going into the different wholesale material places or even Home Depot or just looking at the magazines. I don't watch a whole lot of HGTV. Sometimes I'll catch it when I'm on vacation, but that's mainly where I get the ideas from. Okay, cool. All right, so final question, and this has to do with like inspection items kind of stuff. You, part of the process, right, is you buy a house, you flip a house, a buyer then does an inspection on the property, and hopefully, you know, it's no game changers, right? I mean, you're not like, oh my gosh, how did I miss this $20,000 you know, issue? But this question pertains specifically to Federal Pacific electrical panels. So if you ask any electrician, they're going to say that this Federal Pacific panel is unsafe, you should change it immediately, that type of stuff. I personally own a house with a Federal Pacific panel. I've lived there for 2.5 years. I've had 0 issues, okay? So, but let's, from the investor standpoint, all right, when you are looking at a project and it has a Federal Pacific panel, are you like, hey, no brainer, I'm changing that? Or are you saying, no, I'm going to keep it the way it is? Or are you saying, hey, we'll see what happens during the inspection process? Like, what is your strategy specifically with a Federal Pacific panel or other kind of items like that? Right. Well, I think one of the perks to being a realtor and an investor is that we see all the time the things that the inspectors call out. Yeah. So like Federal Pacific panels are always going to be called out and the buyers are always going to be concerned about them. So I actually have an inspection done on the house before, by a licensed inspector before I even purchase it. Not necessarily contingent on the inspection, but just so I know what I'm getting into and what needs to be fixed, because my goal is that during the new buyer's inspection, they're not going to find many issues. If anything, it might be small little things that need to get tied up, but my goal is to try to take care of all of those things before the inspection even happens. So Federal Pacific panel, if I see that going into it, like I'm already calculating about a $2,500 cost, and I'm putting that in my numbers, and anything else like that too. So but I'm getting a full-blown inspection done, and I'm taking care, like those are the main items even before I get to the cosmetic expenses. So from a buyer standpoint, if you're a buyer, if you know an inspection has already been taking place from this inspector, as a buyer, you already know, the seller knows if they haven't addressed X, Y, and Z, that it's probably coming. Right? Exactly. So when I'm representing a buyer on a flip, I'm always counseling my folks to be aggressive on that inspection. Let's say there's a pipe leaking, or the drain from the shower is leaking, and all those materials are new, and there's a leak. That flipper didn't hire that contractor to install that and there be a drip. So when you ask for that to be done, it's not going to cost that investor or that flipper any money to repair that, because he's going to tell the contractor, hey, you messed up on this, go fix your work. So I think it's always better to be aggressive, right, when you're a buyer buying a flip, because they already know what's coming, one, and two, they've already got the hookups for a quick, speedy fix. I mean, that is the nice thing about being an investor, is that you have your contractors typically already lined up. And if
In a perfect world.
In a perfect world. And if somebody did make a mistake along the way, then yeah, they would need to go fix it. Now, if it were something that just like the inspector didn't catch and the contractor didn't catch and the owner didn't catch, like that's a whole nother ordeal. But typically the inspector is very good at like finding all of those main issues that could be issues, and then for me as an investor, I want to have all of those taken care of before I even put the house back on the market. So.
Yeah. Okay, we're wrapping up. As you can tell, on December 1st, I will have officially outdone myself. Okay, if you don't know, Jess and I are getting married on December 1st. I don't know how I did it. All praise goes out to you know who. And we will continue with these videos. I hope they're helping. There are so many flipped properties out there. I mean, I would say, I don't know what the percentages is, but there are all kinds of flipped properties out there. And we want you to know what you're getting yourself into from every standpoint. And I will just say this, I think Jess might allude to this, but every flipped property is different.
Oh, for
every single one. Yeah. If it's a property that just flipped, you can be sure it's going to be a quality product, or she's never even going to get involved. But there are other ends of the spectrum too, where you probably just want to run as far as you can from that property. So you want to close up?
Yeah, I mean, drop us some questions.
Yeah, we'd love your questions for sure.
If you're interested in getting involved with investment properties or flipping, or if you're a buyer, just maybe have some questions on what to look for in a flip property, leave us some comments and questions, and we'd love to follow up and answer them in more videos, or we'll just write you back.
Sounds good. All right, guys, take care. We'll talk to you later.